And we're live high in the skies of the great city of Atlanta, Georgia, coming to you from WCEG Worldwide Community Empowerment Group Network, WCEG Internet, WCEG Worldwide Community Empowerment Group Radio, here on The People's Choice. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram, and anywhere you can find social media, you can find WCEG. I am the host of The People's Choice, Joe Flint, all one word, like a tribe called Quest. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest with me this evening. I have to say this, I have known this man almost all my life, but I have known him for quite a while, and he has made some great strides in his personal life and great strides in the lives of people he affects. And just all around wonderful, salt of the earth type of person. And I'm glad and privileged to have him on my show for the very first time, and I come to think of it. Here with us on WCEG, The People's Choice, ladies and gentlemen, is none other than Mayor Albert Thurman, or Mayor Al Thurman, from the city of Powder Springs. Mayor Thurman, thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on The People's Choice. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. You know, one of the first things I think about whenever I see you or I think about you is with your wife, the First Lady of Powder Springs, was my Bible study teacher. And I can't remember why, but we took a ride through the cemetery one night after Bible study. You took all of us in your Land Rover. I can't remember what the vehicle was, but for some reason we went for a ride. It was part of the lesson. I can't remember, but I can remember that so very well. Miss Thurman was always very theatrical in teaching us Bible study, but we thank you so much for both you and her. Mayor Thurman, listen, I'm going to get right into it. You made some history just a few years ago in the city of Powder Springs by being elected as the first Black mayor, or African-American mayor, however they deem to put it. And that's huge. But not only that, you had already served as a city council member for several years before that. So I guess where we want to go is, who is Al Thurman? Before he became mayor of the city of Powder Springs, before he was a council member of Powder Springs, I met a few people some time ago from Lynette, Alabama, and I said, oh, I know a lot of folks from there. So, please tell us, to the listeners, to the viewers who don't know, who is Mr. Al Thurman?
Just an average guy.
Yeah.
You know, titles are one thing, but I own a landscape business. I love working with my hands. I'm a man of faith. I love my family. I'm a family guy. So that's basically me. I'm a simple guy. There's nothing fancy about me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I honestly can say that's very true about you. I've never known you to be any different than the way you've explained there. And so I thank you for being true to who you are and always being someone that we can communicate with on a regular basis. So Mayor Thurman, tell us, you know, I remember, of course, when you were running for city council, and then now you're serving as mayor of the city of Powder Springs. How did all of this come about? How do you decide, you know, from being a business owner, that now it's time for you to get into the realm, and I won't say being a politician, but get into the realm of serving the community? Because I dare not call you a politician. You're definitely a community servant. But how did you decide that it was time to move into another realm of serving your community, and then beyond that of being the leader, if you will, of your community?
Interesting enough, it was by chance. I was working in my community several years back, around 2002, 2001. It was a program the COB had called Communities That Care. And I was involved. They had classes and so forth. And we had wrote a grant to better our community, if you will. Yeah. And, you know, typically when you try to get citizens involved, they don't come until actually something has happened. And we were looking to do some things in the cul-de-sacs, putting in benches, basketball courts for the kids, because at that time we didn't have any recreation out here. Right. So it became very controversial. And I happened to be chairing the meeting that night, and the mayor and council members, we had the people that we got the grant from, and some of the people came were very hostile. But my leadership, I understand when I chair a meeting, I keep order. And so it was interesting that the people were there. You know, a lot of times our people voices carry and they tend to intimidate some people.
Definitely
And
can.
I think the mayor at that time seemed to be very impressed with me. 2 weeks later, he called me with one of his council members, and they had a seat open. He asked me what I consider running for city councilman.
Yes.
At the time, I had no thought. I was full engulfed in my own business, and I told him that I would pray about it. I would talk to my pastor, which I did. And lo and behold, I prayed about it. I felt like I could do more from the inside than I could from the outside. Right. Ran and won. The rest is history.
The rest is definitely history. And I stand corrected, Mayor Thurman. We did interview prior to you being elected as mayor. So I stand corrected. We have had you on the show before. I couldn't remember it, but that just goes to show how much your work has just been going. And I can't even remember. You've been so active and gainfully involved that I don't know if you even had time to stop to chat with us. But again, thank you so much. So now, how many years did you serve as council member? I believe it was Ward 2. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. How many years?
That was 14 years.
14 years. Wow. Wow. And so then I don't know, 2015 came around and there was a push, and you heard the calling, and you ran and was elected the first mayor, or first African-American mayor of the city of Powder Springs. How has that been for you? Do you find it, we have a lot of firsts, and especially in the African-American community, we like to, for lack of a better phrase, talk about the firsts. Do you see that as a weight at all on your shoulder as serving as the first African-American mayor of Powder Springs, or do you just see it as a part of the role and just moving forward in
it? I'll answer the question this way.
Yeah.
You know, I am Black and I am the mayor. Right. So I am the mayor of all of Powder Springs. I just happen to be Black.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Sounds fantastic. Yes, sir. Well, we greatly appreciate you. So tell us, Mayor Thurman, what are some of the initiatives that are currently taking place or things that you are ready to bring forward to the city of Powder Springs? I know one of the things is I think you all got a new town center. Is that correct? That was done here
yes.
not too long ago. So tell us a little more about those initiatives.
Well, our city basically, you know, is a bedroom community, and was basically dying. Downtown, there was nothing to speak of after 5 o'clock. Everything closed. Very few businesses. We looked at our comprehensive plan, our LCI plan, and at that time, we decided that we need to make Powder Springs a destination.
Gotcha.
And in order to do that, we needed a centerpiece. And the park was going to be that amphitheater in the heart of downtown, and that we would build around that. And that's what we've been doing. We opened the park up. Actually, since we've opened it, it's just been phenomenal. We've had festivals, 4th of July. We've had thousands of people to come through. We have an interesting event schedule this year coming up. So it's just been marvelous. I also chair the Downtown Development Authority, and we have been proactive in acquiring properties in and around the downtown in that boundaries, because we want to control our own destiny. We want to make sure the development comes as quality development, and we can control what that development is if we own the land.
Right, right. Now, you said something a moment ago. You said that Powder Springs is a bedroom community. As far as businesses are concerned, what is it, or how do you all attract businesses to your community?
That's an ongoing project because, number one, if you're 80% residential, that's considered a bedroom community.
Right.
When I first ran for mayor, obviously, I felt we needed to diversify our tax base, certainly meaning all the cities that are in COB around us have at least 30 to 40% commercial development. So in order for us to take the burden off the residents to not have to continue to raise their taxes, the goal was to diversify the tax base, and everything that we're doing surrounding that park to bring in restaurants, bring in commercial development. So, you know, these are the initiative. And so part of the strategy was to create the destination. And that's what we've been doing. And so far, obviously we had to create a culture where we would attract developers to come to our city. Before, it seems like it was so hard to get anything done in Powder Springs under former administrations. Right. So we've streamlined the process of getting things through as far as development is concerned. We're develop friendly, but we want quality development. We know what we want, and that's what we go after.
Right, right. Makes complete sense. Now, in a lot of communities, of course, you're familiar, Atlanta has NPUs, neighborhood planning. And I know that a lot of surrounding cities of Atlanta just, mainly meet with the HOAs. Our HOAs, I'm sure, a big part of Powder Springs. Is that who you all communicate with on a regular basis?
I have quarterly town hall meetings. I communicate with all of the citizens. I encourage our council members, who we have 3 wards and 2 at-large council members. I encourage them to go to HOA meetings to make sure they communicate, let the citizens know what's going on. But certainly more than that is to listen to the citizens to make sure we're on point in the directions that we're going.
Right. So tell us, Mayor Thurman, since serving as a council member and now into the role of mayor, where have you seen, if any, was a big challenge for you in serving the community?
Well, there's always change. People are comfortable where they are. Yes. And it's hard. In order for us to move forward, we have to change. Right. And that's just life. And so the challenge has been convincing people that they need to change, and change could be good and it could be better for the community. And certainly that's been the challenge. It's just amazing. People just fight change. They're comfortable where they are, and they can't see moving forward.
Got you.
But that's the biggest challenge.
We see that almost everywhere. We see that in communities. We see it in families. We see it in churches. We see it in schools. We see the fight against change everywhere. Heck, we even saw it in the election of Barack Obama, and they used that as their catalyst change. So tell us about the safety of Powder Springs. In every city, and especially with people migrating to Georgia and Powder Springs, I would, correct me if I'm wrong, Powder Springs would be considered one of the metro Atlanta cities. Is that correct? And so with that said, there's such an influx of people moving. Is Powder Springs, of course, I'm sure of this answer, but is Powder Springs one of the safe policing areas in the metro area?
It is. Actually, we were I believe in the state of Georgia and throughout the states, we were nominated one of the safest cities a couple of years back. Wow. So, if you talk to anyone that lives in the city, and people who live in other metro cities, you know why they moved to Powder Springs?
Why is that?
Because of the small town feel and the safety that they feel that they can raise their families. And that's key. And that's one of the main factors as we grow, that we want to maintain that characterization of having that small town and having that balance. And that's one of the key things. And it's hard to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can absolutely imagine. Well, what about, when I have the opportunity here to interview a lot of, elected officials, a lot of mayors, a lot of council members, and a lot of citizens who are just, gainfully involved. And as I talk with, some cities and some elected officials and some administrators, one of the things that they have a hard time dealing with is trash, and if not trash, with looting and littering. Littering, that's the bigger thing, trash and litter throughout the area. Does Powder Springs have any issues like this?
We do. It's an ongoing process. We have what we call Pick Up Powder Springs at least twice a year. Okay. We do education programs through the schools. We've increased our fines for littering, and we have larger signs. We have zero tolerance for littering. It's getting better because we stay on top of it. The classic broken window syndrome, if you don't do anything about it, it gets worse and worse. So we stay on top of it.
Right. I saw the other day I was in Loganville, and I turned on a road, and there was a camera there. And I said, well, maybe that's a police camera. But as I got closer to it, it said it's a litter camera. They're watching to see if anybody is littering on this road. Now, I don't know that it was anywhere else in the area of Loganville, but it was on this particular road. I thought that was very interesting. I said, I wonder are other cities doing a litter camera, but apparently these people are very proud of their community and their neighborhood, and they want to keep it safe. Tell us about, so, in a lot of cities, a lot of people are looking for the live, work, play community. And I know that you said, again, Powder Springs is basically or moreover a bedroom community, but is there room, I guess is the question, in your continued growth to make that a full-on thing for Powder Springs, live, work, and play?
Absolutely. It's interesting. I was going to share with you, Powder Springs we have land.
Yeah.
So a lot of the other cities are built out. So
Right.
So that makes us fortunate for developers wanting to come this way to build houses.
Right.
And certainly what that simply means is we wanted to diversify our housing stock, because at one time Powder Springs had a lot of starter homes, but over the years that has changed. You can come to Powder Springs and get a half acre land.
Yes.
And get it for cheaper than you can in Alpharetta.
Right.
And so we get a lot of people, moving into our city or coming from the West Coast, coming from the East Coast, New York, instead of stopping in Atlanta, they'll come to Powder Springs.
Right.
Real estate brokers bring them out here because they can get more bang for their buck.
Right.
But going back to your question, we have several recreation facilities. Silver Comic runs right through the heart of our town. Over 100,000 people utilize that trail.
Yes.
And we have what we call the linear park. It runs parallel through the Silver Comic Trail. And we have we have basketball courts, we have playground equipment, exercise equipment. We're in the process of breaking ground for a new skate park in that same park. We have nature trails. So it's a huge park. And we're also getting ready to do our Powder Springs Park. We're going to revamp that. We're going to put in a pavilion, dog park, farmers market. So we do a lot for our citizenry to make sure that their activities. We just, in the last few months, we're trying to bring in for that work piece. We just had a distributing plant off of Lewis Road that's going to, we have one of the largest logistic plants in the Southeast right in our backyard. And so now we're starting to see activity where companies wanted to build distribution plants closer to this logistic plant, the train area. So we're getting a lot of that. And the deal is we want to make sure we monopolize on that and take advantage of that. So we just got a plant just approved it. So that looks forward. And certainly we are going out of our way to attract new businesses. We got breweries coming in. We got restaurants coming in. Matter of fact, we're building a multi-family in our downtown area right now. It's going to be breaking ground real soon. So to create the density in the downtown, to create that walkability, to have that live, you got the park in the downtown, that play, and now we're trying to create these jobs. Certainly people are working from home, things of this nature. So we're looking at several different things to create that live, work, and play.
Fantastic. I love it all. I love it all. In keeping with the conversation of businesses, attracting businesses, of course, Powder Springs has been established for quite some time. It's I won't say an old city, but it's one of the older cities in the metro area. However, the city of South Fulton, as you know, is one of the newer cities that Georgia has received. And one of the things that the city of South Fulton has faced or has been facing is the influx of warehouses wanting to, put their businesses there. Do you see that being an issue in Powder Springs, knowing that there's, a lot of space, or do you have a lot of bids from warehousers, trying to come into your facility, as opposed to, as you said, the restaurants, other types of maybe shopping areas? Do you have a lot of, Walmart distribution centers or Amazon distribution centers trying to come to your back door? We
do not, because we look at it from a balanced approach.
Yes.
We know what we want and we know what we don't want.
Right. That's the answer. That's a mayor answer, right? I love it. So when it comes to, how about the education in the city? Now, I know that Powder Springs is serviced by Cobb County schools. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there isn't a Powder Springs school system, but it is all Cobb County school system.
That is correct.
Got you. Now, is there some type of board or some type of conglomerate, not conglomerate, but group that meets of the mayors in the surrounding areas in discussion of the schools and what needs to take place in the Cobb County school system? How often do you all meet, I guess, with the superintendent and the educators in your communities?
We just had a retreat just this week, last week actually. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we brought in our district school district person to talk about, because obviously we're concerned about development, how it impacts the school, whether we're overcrowding the schools. So we have constant communications with our school superintendents and our district persons to make sure that we all are on the same page and we're going in the same direction. So he came and gave a report, because we look at our retreat, we look at our strategies, making sure that the development that we have on the drawing board is not going to, negatively impact our schools. So he came, we talked about that. So we look at it, sometimes we operate from 30,000 feet up, but at the same time, we have to make sure that it's not cause and effect or something else. And certainly the schools is a big factor. We have McEachern High School in our district, Hillgrove. So all of these people move to areas, and the first thing asked is about the schools. Correct. And they want to know, those. So we have great schools in Powder Springs. So one of the reasons that's why people come to our city, because of the schools.
Right. Absolutely. Since 2015, and maybe I would go back further than that. So if I understand correctly, you had served 14 years. So since about the year of 2000 or 2001, you had served as a city council member.
Correct.
And up until now, we're in 2022. What would you say is the population growth that has taken place from then to now?
Wow. I think Powder Springs at one point was around 13,000. Okay. Now we're at 16,000, and we're approaching, with the developments on the drawing board, in the next 2 years, we'll be at 20,000.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
What's projected?
That's pretty amazing. And when what people fail to realize is, everybody's always so fixed on, Atlanta, but they fail to realize all the cities that feed into the metro Atlanta area that actually make up, what they say, the 6 million or whatever people that live in the metro Atlanta area. And very seldom do they take into account those, the smaller cities that really make up that number. Because if I last check, I think Atlanta, only has about maybe 600,000 people that live in the city of it itself. But the 5 or 6 million people that they say live in the metro Atlanta areas are in communities or cities such as Powder Springs and some of the outskirts of that area. So now tell me this, Mayor Thurman, does Powder Springs touch any other county, or is it just Cobb County? Do you touch Cherokee at all, or what's the no other county?
We're very close proximity to Paulding and Douglas.
That's right. Yes, Paulding County. Okay. So with Paulding County being so close and other areas, how often do you all meet with the local development or local council members and mayors of the other surrounding cities for you?
Well, I don't necessarily see them on a regular, but I serve on the board of directors for Georgia Municipal Association. So I see a lot of council members. Certainly when we go to GMA convention in Savannah, we meet a lot of people. So I know them. Certainly we have what we call a CMA, all of the local council members, mayors, 6 cities in Cobb. We meet, once every 2 months. We have dinner. And so we talk about our common things that may affect us. So as far as Dallas and Powell, I know them, but I don't see them on a regular basis. Right. But I know who they are.
Well, I guess where I was getting with that is, or where I will go further with this is, when I think of the big 3 automakers, of course, in the U.S., it's Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler are 3 big automakers. Well, at one point they were the big 3. Now we got everybody else coming in. But what I learned when I look at automakers, if Ford made a truck, then General Motors and Chrysler would go and buy that truck, and they would look at it and they would fix it to make it fit the Ford brand and one to fit the General Motors brand. When it comes to serving and working with other mayors and council members around, how often do you all as we say in ministry, we don't take nothing, we just borrow it and use it just a little further. How often do some of the things that you might have learned in one of the previous meetings, you're like, oh my God, we can use that in Powder Springs, or Powder Springs has shared something that you've seen happen in Dallas, or so on and so forth. How often do you all get to do that? And do you share these ideas on a regular basis and see them come to work?
It's interesting that you would say that, because we're never trying to invent a wheel. We go to cities all the time. When we got ready to build, our downtown park amphitheaters, we went to several cities to look at. We went to Madison. We went to a number of places, Canton, and talked to them. They were very inviting. They gave us tours. So they told us the do's and the don'ts, and so we were well versed and before moving forward. So the idea is not something that's already been done. We just want to make sure we don't run into the pitfalls that they ran into. So they share those things with us. So that's pretty common. We were in the process of doing a skate park. We went to Kennesaw to look at their skate park. We went to Macon to look at their state of the art. So it's very common. And cities are inviting to share information.
Fantastic. Is there anything, as I drive around, I'm a native born here in Atlanta, grew up in Georgia. My only years away were my years in the military. But everywhere I travel in Georgia and in a lot of places all throughout the US, but especially in the South, every time you come into a new city, you see the historic this and historic this and historic that. What are some of the historic things that have transpired in the city of Powder Springs?
You've heard of the the Trail of Tears, the Cherokee Indian? Yes. Comes right through the heart of Powder Springs.
Is that right? Now, as much as I love government and U.S. history, I can't say that I knew that. I just got a new wrinkle in my brain. I did not know that. And
Powder Springs used to be a resort town. The train used to come there because of the springs.
Yes.
They had healing, so at hotels here, going back in the day, people would come from miles around to come to Powder Springs.
Isn't that something? You just blew my mind with that. I can't imagine that I didn't know that the Trail of Tears went right through the city of Powder Springs. So for our listeners who are not aware, and ladies and gentlemen, again, if you are just joining us, we are chatting here with Mayor Al Thurman, the mayor of the city of Powder Springs, which is a city, I would say it's a little west of Atlanta, northwest of Atlanta. Is that correct? We say that's
yes.
Yes, northwest of Atlanta. A very wonderful community and a very beautiful place to go. And we've been so blessed this evening to be able to chat with the current mayor, who has now been in office since the year of 2015. Mayor Thurman, tell us, do you foresee yourself moving beyond? And I get this, I like to ask this question, but I already know it's always the same answer from everybody. But do you see yourself moving beyond the role of mayor? Do you see yourself going for, let's just say, state representative or U.S. Senate or U.S. or a state Senate or anything of that nature? Do you see yourself moving to that nature? Or do you have an inkling, not so much to be an elected official, but to serve on a higher level is the question that I have.
I don't have an inkling, but I never saw myself as being a city councilman or a mayor either. So it's hard to say, but it's not something that I seek or desire. Let me put it that way. But none of us know what the future holds.
This is very true. So tell us this, how have you managed in all the years? I don't know how long you've owned your business, but I know at least 20 years, if not more. You've been a business owner, you've been a father, you're a deacon, your husband, now mayor. How have you been able to manage all of these things and keep Miss Jackie happy and those daughters happy and everybody and even the city happy? How have you managed to do all of these and still maintain your saneness in it all?
Through prayer and supplications, my brother.
Yes, sir. I can only imagine. It's from a personal stance, as I said very early on in this broadcast, whenever I've seen you, whenever I've come in contact with you, you've been the exact same person that I can remember from being a little boy to this point now, and always had an encouraging word, always willing to lend a helping hand. So I'm sure that there are, aspiring leaders in your area and in your community. How often do you get a chance to go into the schools or go into, your local businesses to really get a chance to have a fireside chat with them about leadership, about being a male, about being true to your word and things of that nature? How often do you get a chance to do those things?
Tap Middle School has this program called Pride, and each month, each month, I go in to talk about the word pride. Each one of them, talks about integrity, determination. Actually, I'm going in on Wednesday morning to talk to students that have been nominated by their teachers and to whether they've shown those types of, if they were a person of integrity. So once they're named, so we invite the parents. The parents come. The city sponsors breakfast, and certainly we do that once a month. I love it. It's been a great part of my administration. It's a partnership with the middle school. I get a chance to talk to young people. I meet the parents, take pictures with them. We give them a certificate. So it's a great program. I love it. And there are other schools, elementary schools. A lot of our council members go and do reading. So we're a police department are partnering with the local schools. So it's a big thing that we do here in the city.
Right. Now, you told us earlier, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I think you said you had 3 council districts, 2 at-large seats. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then the office of mayor. When it comes to deciding votes, do you break the tie vote in the city?
I do.
Okay. All right. Do you find yourself every now and again, I guess, serving in your role? Well, let me go back. Having been a city council member, you saw it from the realm of what your community needs. Now serving as mayor, you see it from all of the community, not just your ward. You see it from every angle. Is there ever a time, that it's difficult to make a decision based on one community over the next? Do you find yourself ever toying or wrestling with that based on the needs of one community versus the other?
Yes and no. First of all, because I see the big picture.
Right.
I certainly recognize when it comes to development, zoning matters, because we're policymakers and we deal with procedures. So from our perspective, we're not dealing with a day-to-day operation. So we set policies for the city to run. We're a manager form of city. So from my perspective, when I see the big picture, and a lot of times when we get newly elected officials, they struggle with what their role is. And we operate from a plan.
Right.
We have comprehensive plans. We have LCI plans. We do retreats to make sure our priorities and our strategies are there. So once you understand the dynamics of that, so even though I'm operating 30,000 feet up,
right,
and I know what the plan is, in some cases, what I find interesting is it's more about communicating to the citizens of where we're going and how we're going to get there.
Right.
Certainly, sometimes you may have to make a few sacrifices. Something may have to be in your backyard.
Right.
It's ironic when you move into a subdivision and you saw a train track. Did it never occur to you that a train was going to come down that track?
Right.
So these are the kind of things when it comes to communication that I think is very important. And one of the things I try to convey to the council members in our city is to communicate, listen, and understand what your constituency is asking you for. So, once we set goals and strategy, we hope that we got everybody on board and we're all going in the same direction. We got the right people. We got the right driver driving the bus. We got the right people on the bus, people sitting in the right seats. And that's the direction we're going. And that's how we make our decisions based off the information that comes to us.
Fantastic. Is the city of Powder Springs hiring? Do you all need anything specifically? Are you hiring police? Are you hiring city managers? Are you hiring? Tell us about the needs of Powder Springs.
Well, right now, we are hiring police officers. We almost fully staffed, but obviously there's a lot of poaching going on now, so staff members and things of this nature.
Listen, I even thought about becoming a policeman. I've been seeing some of this.
Yeah, they're giving hiring bonuses.
Yeah.
They got billboards up.
Yes,
So it's tough out here. And I think part of what we're concerned about, there are some new cities that may be coming into Cobb County. So obviously they're going to be looking for staff. So good people, good staff is hard to find.
Right. I can only imagine. you know, as I mentioned a little while ago, and you said prayer and supplication, which is very, very true. Do you ever find it hard to make a policy decision in conjunction with your faith? Do you ever find it difficult to go on your morals and your faith as opposed to what is being done, you know, from a policy and procedure level?
Well, I'll answer it this way. I always stay prayed up.
Yes,
and
sir.
even when there's situations where I'm in doubt, I still lean and depend on God's guidance.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the answer. That's why I could never call you a politician. You're definitely a servant leader. What about in your community? Are there term limits for the mayor and you know, for the city council member? Are there term limits, or you can, you know, run 6 times if you choose to do so?
Not in the city of Powder Springs. Some cities have decided to make term limits, but we don't have term limits in the city of Powder Springs. One of our previous mayors probably served almost 30 years.
Wow. That kind of reminds me of what's his name that was in Chicago, Mayor Daley. I think he served 30 plus years. And even in DC, Marion Barry served forever and a day in that area. Do you ever see yourself? Let me ask you, what does retirement look like for you?
If I can finish up what I got on my slate,
yeah,
then retirement looks good.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think everything in everybody's life, you got to look at your priorities. Health is a concern for my family, my wife, and things of that nature. And those things are very important to me. Certainly, anything I assign my hand to do, I want to see it through. Those things are important. And I always believe in any type of leadership, you should be training your own replacement, or at least have someone being able to step in and carry on where you left off. I want to leave things better than I found them. So I think, to answer your question, when we start out in any role, we have passion for it, and we try to be effective. When we start to lose the passion and the effectiveness, I think it's time to go.
You know what? You couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it any better myself. You know, we see in all facets of our lives where people will serve in positions, whatever the position may be, and not realize, not so much that their time is up, but it's time to train a new generation.
You have to.
We see in so many arenas where individuals aren't given an opportunity because, for lack of a better phrase, an old guard will not move out of the way, to give somebody else a chance to learn. And so to hear you talk about it and say, that you are, for instance, TAP Middle School, going in, encouraging and talking to the young people. But to that extreme, are there, what is it, in my age bracket, 40-year-old, businessmen and women in your area or leaders in your area who want to shadow and know what it is to serve in government, or just want to know what it is to be, in the leadership? Do you get a chance to communicate with the Chamber of Commerce and things of that nature, or young members in your community outside of TAP Middle School? I know you mentioned them, but anybody else in that arena? Because I find in my age bracket of the 40 and maybe 45 and younger people, and I just learned the other day, Mayor Thurman, and I refuse to acknowledge this. They said I'm a millennial. I said that cannot be true. Like, I cannot be a millennial. When I said that's a whole nother. I do not.
That ain't you, huh?
No, that can't be me. But there is a group. If I'm the last of Generation X, the beginning of the millennials. So there's this belief that the millennial group doesn't believe in the longevity of anything anymore. They'll get in and get out, as fast as they can. So do you, even in dealing with city council members that you have, do you see a lot of them just coming in because they want to see, and I don't mean this in a way of, trying to say anything bad about anyone, but do you see a lot just wanting to come in just so that they can say I was a city council member? Or do you see people who really want to serve and make the difference, in the community?
Well, I think when people run for office, if you know anything about politics is the only job that you can run for and have absolutely no experience whatsoever. So it's always a learning curve.
Yes,
and sometimes people have to get acclimated.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they know what the job really entails until they get into it. So
Right.
that could be because, can be a misconception. People tell you, like in a small city like ours,
Yeah.
that it's a part-time job. But the truth be told, it's more than a part-time job.
Right.
If you're going to do something and you're going to do it well, you have to put time into it to make that work and to make it be effective. But going back to your question regarding millennials or young people, we do internships at McEachern. We bring young people in during the summer to work. I get people come in, young people want to shadow me, want to interview me. I'm open to that. I love that.
Right.
I think that's great. And as far as the chamber's concerned, Cobb County Chamber, I think they've taken a liking to me. They've taken me on at least 3 trips. I've been to Toronto. I just got back from Boston, and I'm headed to California with them in a few months.
Nice. I mean, if you just need somebody to go along with you,
Look.
I'll be more than happy to come along with you. So I know I asked you about the term limits. Do you support term limits?
Well, yes and no. I mean, so I've seen guys, like you say, it's hard to tell. It depends on the individual.
Right.
So if somebody says 2 terms, the first thing I think about when you come into office, even if you're president, it takes you 4 years just to get up to speed.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so even when you get up to speed and whatever project you put on the drawing board, another term is not going to finish those projects.
Correct.
So if you only got 2 terms, you can't finish what you started.
Correct. That's, as much as I, am a student of U.S. government and the Constitution and things of that nature, I have to say that I don't think that any of our presidents really have had an opportunity since FDR to see his work come to fuel to fruition. Because he was elected 4 times, to the presidency. Unfortunately, he died, very early into his 4th term. But I mean, 4 times to see, and I get a lot of people who, upset with me because I say he's my favorite president. Just looking at the history and things that took place during his administration. I mean, America came back because of the administration, under President FDR. And so to your point, I also served, I lived in Michigan for a while, and David Rutledge, who was the state representative for the 54th district, I was his legislative aide and campaign manager up there for a while. And they don't have term limits, but they made the statement, which I thought was very interesting. And it's 100% true. He said, yes, term limits do exist every election day. Every time. Every time that I'm back up for election, either my term is going to end or it's going to begin again. So that's what we would always say. So I agree with you wholeheartedly in doing that. But do you ever find yourself, have you ever said to yourself, or have you ever asked yourself the question, Al, it may be time, or Al, let me give somebody else an opportunity, or what can I do to make sure that when I walk away from this role, there's somebody that comes in and do it, or Al, am I overstaying my time? Do you ever ask yourself that question?
Absolutely. And, part of the dilemma is, going back to the word change, even your constituency, obviously, they either hate you or they love you, whichever one it is.
Right.
So, they're constantly encouraging you to run again, either they like your leadership style or they don't.
Right.
But part of that dilemma comes with what we just discussed, whatever things you have on the drawing board and whatever the things you're trying to accomplish, because of the timetable it takes to build, to develop, whatever that is, and the plan. What you worry about mostly is the person coming behind you tearing down what you built.
Right.
And that's one of the things that makes you stay, to try to see those things through. But the problem is your job is never finished.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that whoever you're handing it off to has the same mindset, or at least will try to carry out some of the things that you started.
Right.
The mission, if you will.
I understood what you meant. Is it every 4 years that you all do election there?
Yes, it is.
Every 4 years. So you'll come up for re-election. Is it this year? Will you? Or
no? You're following.
Yeah, I was about to say you're in your second term now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, okay. So you're coming up for re-election next year. How does Miss Jackie feel about you running on to see what the end's going to be? Well, how does she feel?
You'd have to ask Miss Jackie that question. I can't speak for her.
Yeah. Well, it's always been a privilege to watch you all together. The support of the both of you all. I have seen her support you and vice versa, and you in supporting her. You have been, I assume, a member at Mount Ephraim for, 35, 40 years, if not.
Absolutely.
And in that time frame, you've seen the ebbs and flows of church, and you've seen the ebbs and flows of ministry. You've seen it all. Has that been able to help you in your day-to-day journey of being a husband, of being a father, of being a leader, of being a businessman?
Absolutely. My faith is key to anything that I do successful. I give all glory and honor to God. Had not been for him,
right.
I wouldn't even, I'm just a nappy head, snotty-nosed boy from Lynette, Alabama.
Yeah.
If it were not for the God that I serve,
yes, sir,
I couldn't even be here sitting here talking to you right now. See, I know that and I understand that.
Absolutely. When I was last in Lynette, it was for, and I can't call his name. I want to say, I'm not sure if you all were related to him or not, but the football player from Tennessee Titans.
Yes, Josh.
Josh, correct. We were the ones that serviced, your family doing that. And so we went down that morning, and of course I saw your daughter there at the funeral, and I saw your sister-in-law, and I saw everybody. They were like, Joe, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm here to serve as always. So how did you make it, just before we get ready to close? I think we have about 15 minutes here. How did you make, because we learned about you earlier, but how did you make the transition from Lynette, Alabama, all the way up to the big city of Atlanta? How did you all make that transition coming up 85?
Well, actually, it wasn't that way. It was by way of Connecticut. My wife and I got married fairly early, and my sister lived in New York, and then she moved over to Connecticut. And we both had big families. So once we got married, we thought we would strike out and go to New England, Connecticut. We lived there 14 years. And as our family began to age, we didn't want to go back into rural Alabama. So we stopped in the metro Atlanta area, coming back this way in 1979, 80.
Something like that. You've been here since.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir. Well, Mayor Thurman, tell us, what is something that you want to be known for? I refuse to use the word remembered for now, because I almost feel like it's past tense. So when it comes to, you serving in your capacity, when it comes to you being a husband, a father, a deacon, a statesman, if you will, what is it that you want people to know and to be able to always think of when they think of Mayor Thurman, or when they just simply think of Al Thurman? What is it that you want people to always think of when it comes to you?
I left things better than I found it.
Left it better than you found it. That's amazing. That's amazing. That speaks volumes to who you are and to your character. We see all too often in our political realm individuals who will continue to go into office only to serve their own purpose and their own causes. But very seldom do we see individuals coming in to serve the people and to be there for the people on a regular basis. It's rare today, and in these days, I could, when I was having a discussion with someone, when our government was first formed, it was to elect somebody who, John down the street, who could speak far better than Mary, Joe, and whoever else over here. And John was more eloquent and had the opportunity to convey what needed to be said. But in some ways, gone is that representative who is there to speak on behalf of the community, but more so to speak on the behalf of themselves. But I can't say that about you, Mayor Thurman. I can always say that I have, again, I keep saying this. I mean, I'm not getting any kudos, but I know this to be true. I've known you to be a man of integrity, a man of your word, and a man to stand on exactly what he believes. And clearly the citizens of Powder Spring believe and think the same thing. Otherwise, you could have not served the past 20 years in a role of support and leadership for the city. If there is one thing that you wish that you could go back and change, can you share that with us today?
Go back and change?
Yes. If there's anything, maybe not even go back, but if there's anything that you could change, what would that be?
That the road and the path would be easier for those who follow me.
Wow. I think you're doing a good job at making that happen for them. I think that you're doing a good job at showing individuals that you can manage your faith, your family, and a business, and still be able to serve the community and not allow it to overtake you or to give you the big head. We've seen, again, in our nation's capital and as far as to the smallest city in Georgia, where individuals become so big-headed from their roles, and they fail to remember that it was the people, which the name of this show is The People's Choice. It was the people that elected them to serve in those communities, in those capacities. Last thing, as we get ready to wrap up, we kind of talked in the very beginning about initiatives. Is there something that is coming down the pipeline that the citizens are aware of, or that that you can do a spoiler alert here on The People's Choice that everybody's not aware of just yet?
Well, the city is building a brand new city hall that overlooks the park.
Wow.
A municipal complex, if you will. Community development. It's going to be a grand building. I hope to see it finished if God so allows.
Yes,
that's, obviously we own some of the, real estate around our park. The city owned a lot of that. So we decided to sell it and build a new facility, if you will. And that's what's coming down the pipe.
Very nice. Very nice. I mean, I don't know, but if I could just have just a small office just off to the corner somewhere out, I'll take just a small office. I'll come in and help where I can be. I'll come and help where I can.
Hey, Joseph, it's interesting you say that. I don't even tell people I'm the mayor, nor do I wear a name tag.
Yeah,
because I know who I am.
Right. Absolutely. And again, that just speaks to who you are and who you've always been in all the years that I've known you. Well, Mayor Thurman, I won't hold you much longer. We have come to the very bottom of the hour of The People's Choice, and we certainly thank you for visiting us again here on WCEG, The People's Choice, and giving us, a one-on-one with you, learning more about what the city of Powder Springs is doing, what it takes to be in this role, and how you've been able to manage this all of these years. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of prayer, and a lot of supplication to continue to run on this.
Joe kind of cut out on us.
Joe, I think you.
Give us some closing remarks, Mayor. Give us some closing remarks.
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate you all asking me to be on the show. Certainly, it's been a pleasure. Joe, you've done a great job. I enjoyed talking to you.
Yes,
I didn't even feel like an interview. So, obviously it's just me and you talking, having a conversation. So that's how you made me feel. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, no, we thank you so very much, and we hope to please, when the new municipal complex is built, please allow us access so we can come in and walk around and see what it looks like around there. We thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined this evening by Mayor Al Thurman, the mayor of Powder Springs, Georgia, a city that's northeast of Atlanta, Georgia, but definitely a thriving, a beautiful community that you would be more than happy to live in. As a matter of fact, I ask you just to ride through and you'll see just how joyous and how beautiful of a place it will be. Soon to come, all inclusive of live, work, and play. Again, thank you so very much, Mayor Thurman, for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on The People's Choice on WCEG Talk Radio, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care, everybody.